welcome back to Indiequest, a celebration of the indie and obscure, your home for a bunch of awesome indie video game talk. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Captain Drachma. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I am actually very thankful because in the Toledo metro area today, it has been relatively cool, around between 75 and 80. But honestly, right now it's like 65. It's perfect for me, weather. But I do know that out in the Pacific Northwest, it is burning up. So how are you doing?
Yeah. You guys may or may not hear a little bit of AC background noise. That's how I'm doing today. It's in the mid 90s. It's not even the hottest day of the week this week. And my job is, if you guys don't know, I'm an exterminator, so I'm outside all day. And yeah, so I might be a little delirious on this episode, but that's okay.
Yeah, we will plug our way through it regardless. And I don't think anyone's going to care too terribly much that you have your AC on. They just want to hear some awesome indie recommendations, which is what we're going to bring them.
Yeah, we have today. I want to talk a little bit about this Devolver delay thing, because I think it was funny. We'll just have a little conversation about that. But I brought today a relatively new game. I actually got a pre-release code for a game, so that will be my pick for the episode. So, guys, you got to listen all the way to the end to find out what the game is. Or, you probably could figure out other ways. I'm not going to tell you how, but I brought a game, finished it up, and I have some thoughts about it. And it's good enough to at least be on the side quest. So it's a decent game. That's going to be a recommendation today. So I'm excited to talk about it.
I am also excited to talk about it. Can't wait.
So, did you see about this Devolver delay thing? This, 3-minute video they put out?
Yeah, I watched it actually earlier today, but I do remember somebody posting it in the Discord last week, I want to say, and it was extremely humorous. I was smiling the entire way through because honestly, I didn't know it was going to be what it was, and I don't know, I appreciated it a lot. When it's something you're not expecting, it is even funnier, right? No one spoiled it for me or anything, so it was really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a fake Nintendo Direct for Devolver, but it's Devolver delayed, so they're going to be delaying some games. So they delayed 5 of their games: Pepper Grinder, the Plucky Squire, which I was actually a little bit sad about. I was looking forward to that one. That's the one that's kind of like a storybook where you go inside the book and it's a 3D platformer, come out and it's a 2D platformer. It looks really cool. Has a cool art style. Besides that, they delayed Stick It to the Man. I didn't even know anything about that one. And Angerfoot and Skate Story are the ones that they delayed into next year, which is okay. Like, give the developers enough time. Yeah. So it was kind of cool to have like this tongue-in-cheek thing, like, oh, we're delaying these games. Here's our announcement. Give these developers more time. I think they even say that in the video, So cool.
I love how they incorporate. It is legit a Nintendo Direct in like all of the nuance and all of the tonality of their voices and things, but they are instead kind of delivering bad news, but in a positive way. It's almost like saying to your dog when your dog really only understands tone, right? Like, oh, you're a bad boy. You're a bad boy,
Right,
and
pretty much.
Still gets excited anyway. That was exactly how that video turned out or came across.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of dogs, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like the perfect way to do it because, like, yeah, we are sad. Devolver is one of my favorite publishers, and it's like, oh, this is a bummer. I really want to play these games as soon as possible, but you're just smiling because they did such a funny slant on it, so it's like, oh, it's okay. I don't care.
Yeah. Anything is better when it's bad news packaged in a good way, so that's awesome. They still have a pretty good lineup for the rest of the year. Like, there's only like 5 months left of the year, and they still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games left. Yeah. They have Talos Principle 2, Gunbrella, which I'm super pumped for Gunbrella. I know you're excited for the next one, Wizard with a Gun.
Yeah.
I know you were looking forward to that one. That's still coming out this year. So, and then Karmazoo and the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, which I don't know about those two too much, but the first 3 there, Talos Principle, Gunbrella, and Wizard with the Gun, that's like already a really solid lineup for the year still, So
yeah, I was definitely excited to see that. And honestly, I know you're into Gunbrella, but and I've watched bits and pieces of it, but what they showed us in that trailer today, like, oh, that's going to be a really good game. Like, you can just tell it's going to be a good game. It's polished, so that'll be fun.
Have you ever played Zeo Drifter?
No.
No, wait. Is it Gato Roboto? Now I gotta look it up.
I know Gato Roboto. Isn't that like the black and white where you play as a cat? Yeah, I've looked into that one before.
I was trying to think of what studio it was. Is Doing Soft? They made Gato Roboto. So yeah, they made Demon Throttle as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I know you like Demon Throttle, so they are a really good studio. Like, I feel like they've put out pretty much quality stuff so far, and I know they're really into that tight-feeling gameplay. And this is a Metroidvania, which Gato Roboto was, but it was kind of condensed to like an hour or two.
Right.
And this is going to be like more expanded, like, game with more time. So give developers as much time as they need. If the game's awesome, that's awesome. And I'm glad this one's coming out this year, so it's a pretty cool little thing.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the games coming out, and I'm also excited for the games that are being delayed. So
right, same.
Yes.
All right. So what we do here on Indiequest, not every episode, but most of the time, we bring an indie pick to put on our ever-growing list of recommended video games called the Quest Log. What is the Quest Log? You may be questioning if you haven't heard the show before. It is a list with two categories. The main quest, which is a game you pretty much can recommend to anybody and their grandma and their dog. It's a badass, amazing, wonderful game that we highly recommend. You need to go out and play this as soon as possible. That's what the main quest is. The side quest is still an excellent game, a wonderful experience, with a couple caveats, or maybe it's a niche game that only a certain crowd will like. So we usually kind of try to keep those games that maybe don't blow our hair back so much, but maybe to somebody else it will. So the side quest is still a recommended game. It's nothing negative on the show. It's always positive recommendations. So, all that being said, I know you got a game to bring on for the quest log. What you got for us today?
I do have a game. And recently, we sort of loosely started taking requests, like a little bit. I still need to kind of formulate our quote-unquote request sheet, right? But some of our pals in the Discord have been recommending games. And I played a game that wasn't necessarily recommended, certainly not recently, but it is extremely in our wheelhouse, I will say. And it was a game that was played by one of our pals, Weedo, months and months ago at the beginning of the year. And
New Game Old Flame podcast, right?
It actually, yes, he is on the New Game. He did not play it for New Game Old Flame. But yes, that is his.
Just giving him that shout out, you know, I just had to do it.
he deserves it, you're right. But I played a game called, and I've been pondering whether I'm ever actually going to pronounce it correctly, but I think it's qomp, but it also might be qomp. It starts with a Q. QOMP. That is the name of the game. Have you heard of this one, Josh? Be it in the Discord or otherwise?
Yes, and it's on my wish list. I just haven't purchased it. I'll see what you have to say about it today. Yeah. But it has very little description. All I have is that I know that Weedo was like, hey, you should check this out. And then I looked into it. I put it on my wish list. And it has a very simple description. It says, you are the ball. Escape. So I'm anxious to see what the game's all about.
Honestly, while it is a very minor description, it doesn't seem very forthcoming with what's going on in the game. It basically, that's kind of the game is, you just are trying to get out of these levels, but it is a one-button Pong-like puzzle adventure game. So It's very strange. It's honestly unlike any game I have ever really played, other than it is reminiscent to Gaballer. Doesn't play the same as Gaballer, but it has a lot of graphical similarities, I guess. And that is probably because both of them were developed by Stuffed Wombat, which is why once Weedo actually played qomp and I found out it was by Stuffed Wombat, I was like, oh, I'm all over that. I want to play that game because I loved Gaballer so much, and I love supporting very small developers. It came out February 4th, 2021, and as far as I'm aware, it is only on PC. Steam has it on sale right now, or it's not on sale, but it is for sale for $7. I did buy it on sale for, I think, about half that. So, Josh, usually I start with gameplay when I do these mini reviews that we do on Indiequest. But today, I'm going to start with presentation because I think that I need to paint the picture for our listeners.
Oh, sounds good.
It is a black, white, and gray game. There are really no colors other than that. There is some hints of red at times when you have your Pong ball bump into walls, but it's mostly like grayscale. It is 2D. The screen itself, the display itself kind of mimics a curved CRT. So the stuff that's in the middle of the screen is more clear and it gets fuzzier as it goes to the edges, and it almost has that curvature, right? Even though you're playing on a flat screen, it looks like a CRT. It's very basic. There is no story to speak of. And yeah, hopefully that kind of gives you an idea. You play as you can say a ball, but you're really a square more than anything. You're the Pong ball that you're used to batting back and forth. And it actually kind of plays on that because the game starts out as you controlling the ball in between two Pong paddles, and you have to figure out how to get past one of them. And it's very interesting. They just keep bouncing you back and forth. You're like, I'm never going to be able to get out of here. Like, what am I supposed to do? But then finally, the one paddle slows down enough that you can sneak underneath or over top and then continue on the level. So that will take us into gameplay. You control the Pong square ball thing with only one button. And it can be your mouse click. It can be the space bar. I played with the controller, but it was probably extremely unnecessary because I just clicked the A button on my Xbox controller. I didn't really need a controller for this. But it is very interesting because it is really hard to wrap your head around how this controls at the beginning of the game. Your brain wants it to do something that it just won't do until you kind of figure out and the game teaches you, hey, this isn't going to work the way you think. You need to keep failing, basically, until you finally figure it out. So rather than you pressing the button and it making your character ball square thing turn around and go like left to right, each button press causes the ball to go at a different 45-degree angle up or down. That's the way I thought about it. So think about your cursor, your ball going at 45 degrees up, and then you press the button and it shifts, I guess, 90 degrees to the other 45 going back down. And that's how it kind of goes. It's very hard to explain. Look up any video on it and you'll understand what I mean. But you can control the direction of the ball by pressing, but then also the only way to actually turn the ball back towards the left, like if you're going right and you want to go back left, you have to allow it to bounce into a wall. And then you can go back, right? So like Pong or think pinball or something, right? You're kind of bouncing this ball around, trying to get into different spaces to eventually get to the end of the level. There's always like a rope looking thing at the end of the level that you just have to get the ball onto and then trail off and then out of the level and then into the next one. So very simple concept, but extremely addicting. Very fun game. I don't even know how to describe how much fun it is. Very challenging at times and not quite understanding. You kind of have to puzzle your way through, but it's not like a typical puzzle game where most puzzle games, they kind of lay out what the puzzle is, right? And you can kind of think through it. It doesn't really work with this game because you have a constantly moving being at all times. So you have to constantly think, okay, I need to think quickly to turn this ball the correct direction and make sure I bounce off of this to kind of bounce it over here and get into this space before I accidentally bounce it into a trap or bounce it into an earlier part of the level. That was one of my biggest frustrations, is that there's like a door, like an opening where you're in an early part of the level. You get into that opening and now you're in the second part of that level. And if you're not careful and you don't really quite understand the movement, it's kind of unruly. You can accidentally go back into that opening and then out into the early part of the level, and then you have to do that all over again, right? Because it's constantly moving. So you kind of have to think on your feet a little bit and constantly think about what to do next. I mentioned that there's traps. There are spike walls, buzz saws, rotating sword knife things that are trying to get your guy, your ball, right? And when you die, the nice thing is there are like little bubbles that you can touch, usually as you move on to a different part of each level. And as long as you hit that, then you automatically reset right there. So think Celeste or something, right? Being a new room, every time you die, you restart right where that bubble is, and you can try again. So it's pretty friction free when it comes to failing a certain section. You don't have to go through the entire level again every time you die. That would be pretty terrible, and honestly I would have gotten pretty frustrated, but it's fairly friction free, pretty easy. Not to say that the game is easy, because it is fairly tough, challenging, but at least you can get right back into it, and I really appreciate when a game does that. Sometimes when you bounce, the environment can change. So if you hit a wall, there might be a door somewhere that opens up when you hit a wall. But when you hit the other wall, like on the left side rather than the right side, that door might close back. So you kind of have to puzzle it out that way and make sure you're hitting the walls when you're supposed to open the doors, and then use your button presses to make sure your ball is actually heading in the right direction. And then in later levels, when you actually press the button to change the angle of your Pong ball, it also will perhaps move something within the level. And oftentimes they're like traps, right? So you have to not only move your character, but figure out how to move the things that are in the level. And with each other, you kind of have to make sure you're moving your character in the right direction, moving the traps in the right direction, and dodging them all at once. Like, it becomes like a whole mental game to try to get through some of these levels. There are even dungeon levels before most of the last part of each section, I guess, world. And in those levels, the cool thing is there are doors, usually 3 doors that you have to open by pressing buttons. So it almost feels like you're in a Zelda dungeon in a way, which is super cool. It's a massive, not massive, it's not huge, but bigger than the ones you've done before. And you kind of have to manipulate your way around your surroundings to get to 3 different buttons. And just it was just really ingenious the way they set those levels up specifically. It made me smile all the way through. And the other cool thing, and you wouldn't expect it out of this game, once you get through those 3 doors and those levels, you go on to the last level of each world, and they actually have a boss, which for a puzzle game like this, you wouldn't expect that. But each boss kind of tests you in something that you learn throughout this world that you're on. So honestly, fairly challenging. Most of them were fairly challenging. Took me several tries to get through, but very fun. So, Josh, you have any questions before I move on to the tunes that I was hearing throughout the game?
No, you're just selling me more and more. This is pretty much one of my favorite types of games, like where it's they take a simple mechanic and then idea, which is basically your Pong ball, with one button, and they just keep expanding it with a bunch of different just challenges and things. And I think the level design, and it sounds like you've already explained a couple, that they all just sound very clever. Yeah. So it's always going to be one of those things where you're like, okay, they're trying to do this now. And I just think when they take something so simple and then make it like interesting and clever, that's one of my favorite game mechanics, period. I actually have another game that I'll bring probably pretty soon. I'm not going to promise anything, that is similar in that way, where it's like, it's just very simple idea, and then they just expand it and expand it and expand it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, actually, I was caught off guard. I kind of forgot about this, but there is a section pretty early on where there's like a line that goes through the screen. You can tell that the bottom, like underneath this line, is a little bit different. Like it looks a little bit hazier or shimmery compared to the rest of the levels. And it's like, what's down there? What is that going to do? And you go into it, and it's basically simulating water. So your ball drops to the bottom, and every time you press the button now, you kind of like float up a little bit like Mario does when you're swimming in a Mario game. Super interesting. It really throws a lot of things at you that you're not expecting and just makes you smile. So, the music. Extremely soothing. Electronic tunes. Think, what am I going to zen out to a fun puzzle adventure type game? Like that is the tunes that I got. So very good music, fits the game, fits the action very well. Honestly, there's only a few different tunes, right? Because it's a pretty small game.
How long is the game, like, total, you think, to play through?
Well, it is extremely short, which for a lot of people, they'll like that. For some people, they want more. Honestly, personally, I could have gone for some more. I completed it in roughly an hour and a half, so it did not take long. But honestly, I've been playing some longer indies lately and just wanted to play something short and quick. And I've been wanting to play this one. And I'll be completely honest, it starts with Q. And anybody that is follows Polykill knows that Q is like, do you want to play Quake? Do you want to play Quest 64? Or do you want to play something weird like
what about
qomp?
Quantum Conundrum?
That is one you could play. Yeah.
Yeah. The puzzle game too.
Yeah. But I played qomp or qomp or whatever, and I'm very happy that I did. But
yeah,
Josh, did you have any other questions before I throw it on the quest log? I know maybe seems like I went through it quickly today, but it's only because it's a pretty basic and easy to describe game. It's nice to have those every once in a while.
Yeah, honestly, your description is very selling of it. Like, just looking at the trailer and what it is, I think that You're a Ball Escape is pretty much all you really need. Yeah. So just all this explanation is even better. You've actually told me on this game. I'm actually curious, though, if it's a main quest or a side quest game. So what are you thinking?
So I will say that I'm going to compare it directly to Gaballer because they're both by the same developer. They're fairly similar games. In Gaballer, just for a refresh for everybody, you use your mouse and you're controlling your cursor basically to try to dodge bullets that are coming at you. That's the whole point. You just have a time limit and do that. It's more basic, I would say, than qomp is, but I look back, and if there's one game that I would change on the quest log, it would be Gaballer. I made Gaballer a main quest. It is a very, very, very good game. I believe that it's still a good game, and I think that I stated when I played it that anyone could have fun with this game, for sure, no doubt. Anybody that picked it up would have a good time. My wife played it and had fun. She zenned out playing it. So it's really good. I know everybody would enjoy it, but I have since kind of classified that certain games are side quest games. They're short, fun to pick up and play when you're in between games. And what is a side quest? It's something you're doing in between your main quest missions, right? In most games. So, with all that, I'm going to put qomp on the side quest. Not because it's not good, not because everybody shouldn't go out and check it out immediately, because I think everybody should, but because it's short, quick side quest. It is the perfect side quest. It's almost like a small puzzle game that you would play in a larger game. It reminds me of playing those missions in Archvale, right? Where you'd have to like get into the crystal and dodge them just perfectly and stuff like that. Gaballer reminds me of that, and so does qomp. So I highly recommend it. It doesn't seem to me like there's a whole lot of replay value in qomp. That's kind of one detraction. Once you beat it, you can do speed runs of it, but there's not a whole lot of different stuff that changes as far as I'm aware. You can just get better and better and better at the game. Also, I think I mentioned earlier that it is $7, and $7 for a game that lasts a little over an hour for a playthrough to see credits not exactly great value for your money, for gameplay.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to get all the achievements. You're going to get them all. So if you're an achievement hunter and you beat the game, you get all the achievements as long as it doesn't bug out. But all in all, a very good game, comfortably on the side quest, but does not mean that everyone shouldn't go out and check it out, because I think everyone could have some fun with this game.
Nice. It sounds like a game you put on your Steam wish list, and then when it's Steam fall sale time and you have like 7 other games and that game's like $3, you just throw it in there with the pile. Right?
Yes.
And then just get to it when you get to it.
Yes, or every once in a while games like that will get like thrown into some weird bundle on Steam, or I think it's on itch.io too, so there's probably a way that it would get bundled together with something else, and you would just buy a pack of 10 of those kinds of games. And a year later, you kind of like, oh, I'm kind of bored. Oh, I'll try this game. And then you have a blast with it for 2 hours. So, yeah.
It's like, I remember the captain talking about it, and he has good taste. So let's go off his recommendation, right?
For sure. But, Josh, I think that while I still believe Comp's a fantastic game, you brought a game for us that just released. So, let's hear about it.
I think it released on the 10th. So what is that? Like a little under a week once it's post. I played a brand new video game called Stray Gods, the Role-Playing Musical. So have you heard anything about this game besides me going, hey, this game looks cool and I want to play it for the show?
Honestly, not really, but I did look into it a decent amount because you were going to play it. But
okay.
I think the thing, I'm not trying to segue you off of what you're doing here, but I think something that is instantly recognizable as soon as you look at this, or I guess maybe not recognizable, but sticks out, is the art style. I think it's an awesome art style.
Right. The art style is really cool. So basically, I'll do a little description. This game it has the word role playing in the title, right? You're not sitting there thinking, it's not a turn-based game. It's not nothing like that. This game is basically, imagine Hades' art style as a motion comic that you have dialogue tree options to change the path of the story. So basically think Telltale plus Hades art style motion comic, pretty much is what you're looking at. But does it all come together? You'll find out right now, right?
Yeah.
So the thing they do, basically it's a basic story where there is something that happens at the beginning and you're trying to solve this mystery. It's kind of like a murder mystery, I'll say. And you're the main character, Grace, and you have basically 3 options of dialogue tree choices that you can what's the word? Like basically, so there is blue, green, and red options, right? Badass is one of them. And then the other one is charming. And then the other one is clever. So it's kick-ass. Red is kick-ass, where you're a little more rambunctious and antagonistic.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a little more pithy things to say. You can yell at people, be a little more loud. You got blue is the more conniving and intellectual, right? So, and that's clever. And so the clever option is more like, oh, let's think this out a little bit. We'll have a little bit more interesting choice. And then we got green, which is the charming one, where it's mostly going to be compliments, be a little more lighthearted, try to make the best of the situation with the dialogue option. So what ends up happening during mostly songs. So this game is a musical, and it has a lot of huge talent in it. We got Troy Baker, we got Anthony Rapp, which he's from Rent, Rent.
Yeah.
You got Felicia Day, Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Blog, and we got, let's see, I have the cast right here. We got,
so I know
so many good people in this. Yeah.
I know Felicia Day. You just mentioned that she's on some blog or something.
That's a musical. That's why I said it. But yeah, she's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know her from Supernatural. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
But she was a side character in Supernatural for several seasons, and she's really funny.
I got Ashley Johnson, which she voices Ellie from The Last of Us.
Yeah.
We got it's just like a very stacked cast. Like there's a lot of great actors in it. They're all singers too. The main character, Laura Bailey, who plays Grace, she's also just a really prolific voice actor. She was in Last of Us Part 2 as a main character. And anyway, so the main thing that happens is there will be a big story moment, and basically you have muse powers, like a muse, like in this world, it's all about gods. It's Greek gods, but they're here in modern day society, right? So you have muse powers where you start singing and everybody sings around you and a musical kicks in. And you'll have choices that will change the songs and the music. We'll talk more about the music in a minute. I'm mostly talking about the mechanics now, but you'll have branching dialogue trees, and then you'll have an option to pick which one you want to use the most at first. So say, it'll just flash up. Do you want her to be more kick-ass? Do you want her to be more clever or more charming? And then if I pick kick-ass, and I'll have red options on my dialogue tree, but no other options for the time being. Later on, they unlock more, but this does affect the storyline and affects the songs quite a bit. And just to put it down to like how intense it is, how many different versions of songs there are. We'll get into the music right now. The music's actually really good at times, but I do have some criticisms of it because just how they had to piece it together. So I'm reading this from a Game Informer article about the game. They're a way to look at the songs. One of the earliest songs, Grace is deciding how to proceed. She can side with her best friend Freddie, the mischievous idol Pan, or choose to go it alone. While a song only has 3 verses, 3 choruses, 2 pre-choruses, and a bridge, the number of decisions created 38 distinct sections of music that must be written and recorded. That's just for one option in the game. And it's saying that throughout this game, there are almost 10 million different permutations of songs that can be made. So
it's got to be like AI or something, right?
So what it is Austin Wintory. He made Journey soundtrack. He's a very prolific composer.
Yep.
He took this on, and he's been working on this for years and years. He literally made 4 different albums worth of music that you can purchase and listen to. There's 3 of them that are basically the paths. So one's the blue, one's the red, one's the green. And then there's one that's called the Pantheon version of the album, which is just kind of a mixture of all 3. So he just made a crazy amount of music for this. And, it's what you imagine. Like, everybody starts singing about their emotions. We're singing, and then you have to, like, select the options and stuff. What I will say for my criticism for the music, I do think it's fantastic. I think when it hits really hard. It hits like a musical should. But there are moments when you select an option and then you kind of get, because of the amount of music, you get a little bit less of that bombastic energy and feel for some of the choices, I feel like. Like, I feel like you'll have a moment where it's just like this crazy, awesome, emotional, impactful moment. And then you'll hear like oboes in the background, and it sounds kind of weird when you make another option. Does that make sense? It doesn't feel as even paced because of the variation in the songs.
See, I feel like if I played it, most times when I play games where there are multiple choices and the reward for my choice is extra story, or in this case, different kinds of music, I feel like I would get a little annoyed that I might have missed out on a better piece of music, or that I'm missing out on music in general, right? Because I imagine you'd have to play through the game a million different times in order to hear all that music. Unless I'd say
you'd only, I think, if you played this game, so say you were like super in love with the game and you just wanted to see all the paths, I think you could probably min-max it and get most of the music by playing it like 3 times.
Oh, okay.
And it's not a very short game either. It's like, it took me about 6.5, 7 hours, so it's not the longest game ever. But I just started up a second playthrough just to see some of the other options, what was going to happen if I changed this choice. Here's an early choice, just an example. So the very, very first song, like, she's trying to decide if she wants to sing with Pan, or she wants to sing, everybody's to sing together, or wants her friend and the Pan to sing. So you have 3 choices. You can either sing by yourself, have everybody sing, or have your 2 friends sing, right? And the rip out a solo is the negative red one, right? And that would be the only option you would have during that time if you pick that as your red option,
Right.
As the one you're focusing on. And I will say later on you get more options, but I won't spoil when or how, but you do. But for the first act, that's definitely something that they focus on for sure. And it makes the story interesting. I do think that the characters are very compelling. I find the story to be very compelling as well. I was riveted. I wanted to see who the murderer was. I wanted to see how everything concluded. I do think that it is slightly predictable. Like, I knew who it was pretty quickly. I was like, oh yeah, it's her. That's the villain. I'm pretty, like, I was like 95% sure. Maybe I was just lucky, in my selection, because you can probably guess it many different characters. But I was like, that's who it is. That's the big bad. And I was right, but you never know. I don't even know. Maybe it changes if you select different options, but
yeah,
I'm not sure,
That's what I was going to ask, if it does change if you play a different way, like if there's a possibility for multiple different bad guys.
I think they leave it open for that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But the gameplay is pretty simple. You go into an area. There's like an overworld that you select multiple locations you can go to. You don't do any movement of the character themselves. They have just basically kind of like still frame, and then another still frame and another still frame. Not like fully animated. Occasionally there'll be an object, like they close a book or something, it'll be fully animated, but usually it's like you would think, like turning a page of a book each time. And it's very nice looking. I think that I did have some technical problems where characters wouldn't show up in scenes. I think they said that has been patched by the first patch here, so you guys shouldn't have to worry about that if you do play it. But for me, I thought the game was very cool. Like, I was pretty sold on it. I think, like, my criticisms pretty much stop and end with the whole music thing, where I feel like it's a really interesting experiment. I feel like they spent so much time, so much energy. You can tell this is a labor of love for the devs, the musical people that made all the music. It's just so much work, and I have to give them kudos because I don't know how they pulled this game together. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, especially with that much music, that's where it's like, I don't know, I can't even fathom that a smallish developer was able to get that many such a star-studded cast. Like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I honestly think that a lot of them are like connections that Austin Wintory has, because I know he does a podcast with Troy Baker, and then I'm sure Troy Baker knows a couple people, and then they know a couple people, that type of thing. But still, like, they had to have some serious budget for this. I think it was on Kickstarter. It had a Kickstarter, and I'm sure that raised a good portion of the funds to pay these kind of celebrity, B-tier celebrities or video game actor celebrities.
Right.
And, the voice acting's there. Like, the voice actors are really good. I thought that each one of them played the character so well, where I started having favorite characters, and I started having favorite, or least favorite characters, and ones that there are romance options too. I should mention there are a handful of people, I'm not going to spoil who, that you can romance, and that affects things. You can there will be an option with a little heart next to it on the dialogue trees. And if you select that, there'll be like a flirty option. Yeah. But if something happens with the character and you kind of lose trust in them as the player, you can just select the heart with a cross through it, a broken heart, and do like a negative option towards them, kind of push them away and choose your romance partner, which I'm sure I know the romance partner I picked had a song specific for that romance partner. So I would say, yeah, there probably is going to be a guide out there, like, pick this character with these choices, and then do this character with these choices as your romance or whatever, to get like all the music and listen to everything. So I think it's just, honestly, you would probably do good playing the game one time and just listening to the 4 soundtracks. But if you wanted to experience the story, that's when it gets interesting, and you're going to have to try to play it multiple times to get all the different branching options.
Yeah. See, that's something that I love to listen to video game OSTs, especially when I'm working. But the majority of the time, I'm listening to a soundtrack that I have for a game that I have played, right? So I think that it would annoy me, and this is just a personal thing, but I think it would annoy me a little bit to listen to this soundtrack, even after one playthrough, and hear songs that I never heard in the game, because whenever I'm listening to a game soundtrack, I'm always like attaching that song to a memory from when I was playing it, and It would be impossible to do that if you never actually heard the song in the game. So it would probably be incentivized for me to go back and play through multiple times. Or honestly, if I beat the game and I was really interested in hearing the songs and how they played in different parts, I would probably watch a Let's Play. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
because
just watch a Let's Play. It's like,
yeah,
it's like I played. Okay, so just for me, I clicked clever because of course it's kind of like in the middle to me. Like it's not super charming Grace, where she's just like, oh, I love everybody and let's make happy-go-lucky, and it's also not kick-ass, which is the red options, which is I'm in your face, it's all about me. It's kind of like, all right, let's get out of this situation with something pithy and sending out kind of like a have you thought about it this way? You know what I mean? Kind of trying to play both sides of that, which I thought that was cool. And that actually is how it ends up playing out when you pick those dialogue options, which is pretty cool.
Yes,
so
for sure.
I would say that, honestly, I'm thinking about doing another playthrough. It's probably not going to be anytime soon because there is a story beat that I had, which made me very sad that I ended up doing. Let's just say one of the characters either gets badly injured or dies, but I'm not going to spoil anything. And I was pretty sad about that. So maybe I'll play through it again. Who knows? But that's what you're here for in this. You're here for the story. I think it's I would give it like a solid 7 out of 10 because of the predictability factor. But like I said, maybe if I didn't play it the way I played it, I wouldn't have predicted that. You know what I mean? Maybe different dialogue trees would show themselves if I played it, more charming. Maybe I would never have even thought for a second who the killer was. You never know. It's just my personal playthroughs. One playthrough and like maybe like a third or so, another playthrough. That's all I played. So yeah, hard to tell. But when the songs hit, when everything coalesces to what this game is trying to do and the vision I feel like they have, where the songs hit so good, you get these big sweeping moments where all the characters are singing at each other and there's big reveals. I feel like this game is just like a solid like 10 out of 10. Like I love it, right?
Yeah.
It's just these little tiny like irritating things where you have like music that just doesn't sound right or it feels a little off place, and then it kind of takes it down another point to where this game, for me, if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to put it on the quest log here.
I don't. I was going to ask if where you'd put it on the quest log, but also I wondered, I guess, prior to that, if you think that there's any chance, it sounds like it's just part of the game, but do you think there's any chance that some of the irritations that you might have could get patched or changed in the future? Because you did play it very early, right? So it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, there was I would say that there was some volume issues. I feel like this is something they probably would easily fix. Like some of the characters are a little quiet and stuff, so I didn't really want to focus on that part. Yeah. But I feel like just the music occasionally, to me, didn't hit as hard as it probably should. But I'll say it. Be honest, man. Like I had a smile on my face like 9 times out of 10 for this game. I really had a fun time playing it for what it was on its own terms,
Yeah.
And I think it's a really cool experiment. And I don't know if they'll ever make a sequel or if they'll like do DLC or they'll add upon this idea, because I could see them doing more. Continue this story. There's more to do with this story. They do leave it in a place where they could make a sequel, or even just the same idea, like a big motion comic with a bunch of cool characters and awesome music. Like, I just think it's a really awesome idea, and it's kind of a once in a lifetime game from that angle. Yeah. I don't know how easy it would be to get all these awesome people together to do this again,
Right. I imagine not easy.
Yeah. So from that angle, I was sitting there, I'm like, I've been waffling back and forth if this is a main quest or a side quest game, but I am actually going to put it on a side quest.
Okay.
For my opinion on this game, because I do think it's a very strong game. I think that it's worth playing. It's worth your time if you're into this type of game. I feel like it's such a niche type of game, and not everybody is going to like it that much. I feel like some people are actively going to dislike this game because of the music. Some people don't like musicals. Some people don't like branching dialogue options. I honestly think if you're kind of missing like Telltale style games, this even matches the Telltale style game even from the jankiness of it, because there's janky parts to it, and janky edges. So I think that the voice actors killed it. I think the musical artists killed it. I think that there are just enough rough edges and enough things that some people will dislike about this game that just kind of just nudges it towards a side quest, but it's kind of like on that line where it's really close to a main quest for me.
Yeah, and I mean, if I played this game, I would imagine it would probably be a side quest game for me too, but in a way, it might not be very fair for me to judge a game like this, because this is, while I have played games that are kind of similar to this, I do not gravitate towards them. And kind of like you were saying, Josh, I think a lot of people, you either really love this kind of game or it's not your jam, right? So yeah, makes sense to put it on the side quest.
Awesome. I also want to say, like, if this type of game is your bag, like, I ride or die story-based games that are focused on the narrative where I just make selections, like, this is basically, what's the name of it? Visual novel. It's kind of a visual novel with musical elements, There's musicals that pop up in your visual novel, pretty much. If you love visual novels and you want something that's completely unique, that has never been done before, with a pretty damn awesome cast and a really great story, like I would say good to great story depending on your opinion, I'd say check it out. Like that already right there, that pitch right there makes it sound like I was going to put it on main quest, but like I said, there's some caveats there for for me personally. Like I said, some of the songs didn't hit as hard as they probably should have, or they intended them to, for me personally, but I could see this being somebody's favorite game of all time just because it just hits just right for them,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've talked a lot about the music, but the art design is super unique as well. Very, very stylized and cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I said Hades because it's pretty easy shorthand, because it has that comic book angular, like dark tone. It almost feels at times when they show the city and stuff, like from a color palette standpoint, like Batman, the original Batman animated series from the 90s. Like, it has that kind of like very graphic, very stark colors, and then with like a pop of color here or there. And I just think that from the way it's made, and it's not like animated, they did such a good job at showing expression for people, right? Like, like they look genuinely shocked, and you start to it's a good game. Like, it's actually a fantastic game. Like, I think people should check it out. But I think it is sitting, like I said, right there on the side quest, just barely not a main quest for me. So it's going to be a main quest for a lot of people, though. Yeah. So I say check it out if you haven't yet. So,
well, there you have it, folks. Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, a side quest game. And from myself, qomp, also a side quest. Not very often that you get a side quest from both me and Josh, but today is that day. So consider yourself lucky or unlucky. I don't know.
And then qomp, if you don't remember, is QOMP.
Yes.
So you can look it up on Steam and it pops right up there.
If you need a Q game for Polykill, get it, because it's short and fun. Perfect alphabet game.
Yeah. Awesome. So before we do plugs, do you want to announce what our next episode is going to be so people can prepare with us?
Yeah. Josh and I are going to be playing a not quite as new as Stray Gods, but new for 2023. It was actually very early 2023. A game that both Josh and I have been interested in. And honestly, I think it was just post-recording one time. We were kind of talking about it and hinting to each other that we were, hey, well, I kind of really like this game. I'll probably bring it to an Indiequest in the future. And it kind of turned out that it was the same game. It's like, well, let's do a review on it then. And that is A Space for the Unbound. Josh, you want to tell the folks kind of what A Space for the Unbound is?
Yeah, it's early 90s Indonesia, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Indonesia, yep. There's two kids from high school, and they both have superpowers. It's a side-scrolling, kind of puzzly narrative focus game, I would say. That's pretty easy description, right? I played a couple hours. I don't want to spoil too much of my thoughts, but so far I'm digging it. So
yeah, I haven't played much of it yet, but I have looked at screenshots. It has like elements of beat 'em ups. It's got a lot going on, which is super interesting. But I'm ready to engross myself in kind of that story focused game, right? And we've done a lot of that together in the past with the To the Moon series, and I think that A Space Beyond Bound will fit in quite nicely in a similar vein. So
yeah, so it's going to be, we'll do the same thing we always do with review episodes. We'll have spoiler stuff up front, for like probably half the show, and then we'll go deep into the story and just break it down. So if you guys want and you have time, I say check out the game. It's 10 hours or so.
Yeah.
And I think it's only on Steam. No, it's on Switch as well.
Yes.
So it's on Steam and Switch right now. So check out A Space for the Inbound and come back next episode and we'll have a big, awesome review about it. I'm pretty excited to talk about it, honestly.
I can't wait. It's been sitting in my library for months, just waiting for the right time, and sometimes a little push from each of us to get us to go play this game is just what we need, right? And I'm excited. I'm happy I'm not playing it because I feel like it's going to be a great game to talk about with a pal, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Well, I think that's going to do it for the show. And what we like to do at the end of the show is plug ourselves. So where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at Captain Drachma on X, Twitter, and you can find me, of course, in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. You can also find Josh and our long lost buddy Steve there, too.
Yeah. And you can find me on X Not Gonna Give It To You, Twitter, at Frantic Society. You can also find the show at Indiequest Pod on there, or you can send us an email if you play. Even if you play a couple hours of A Space for the Inbound, you're just like, man, this is cool. Thank you guys for introducing me to it. I'm excited for the episode. Just any little note, you can send it to us on the Discord. You can send it on our Reddit. Make a comment on there. That's r/Polymedia Network. There's a lot of places to get a hold of us. Just send us a message, like if you're interested in this game or if you're going to check it out, or if you do, and send us a little mini review. We'll read it on the show because I love that, listener interactivity if we can get it. So many places you can find us. We're also part of the wonderful Polymedia Network, full of a bunch of awesome shows about video games, nostalgia, TV, and various other things. Shoot out a show that you want the guys to check out.
So today, I'm actually not going to recommend a podcast. I'm going to recommend our charity stream that is coming this coming weekend, the 19th and the 20th, noon to noon Eastern. Several of us, myself included, Steve included, most people know who Trav is, Trav will be on there, SNES Drunk. We're all going to be playing games, doing live podcasts, like I said, from noon to noon Eastern. Check out the Polymedia Twitch channel for that. Specifically myself, if everyone that's listening likes me a little bit and maybe wants to watch me put my money where my mouth is when it comes to Enter the Gungeon, I will once again be reprising my role of playing Enter the Gungeon for 2 straight hours and talking too much about a game that I love. So that will be at 9 o'clock Eastern Time AM on Sunday. So I am one of the last ones. I'll be rounding out the charity stream, and following me will be our pal Trav. So come and check us out.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. No, unfortunately, no live Indiequest. Maybe we need to make that happen sometime.
That would be fun. We'd
have to think of some way. We could even just bring indie picks and just chit chat with the audience or something. But yeah, that would be a fun something to think about for the future.
We could do. This is just shooting out ideas, and I think people kind of enjoy that on podcasts sometimes when we're just riffing. But we could do like a indie song request or something like that. Would be cool. Really fun. I don't know how we'd get it to work. Like we'd have to stream the audio, but that would be awesome. So everybody could just type in or donate so much to get their request played. Like that'd be really fun.
That'd be really chill string.
Yeah.
We will think about that for a future time. That's not this weekend. This weekend's going to be awesome anyway.
Yes.
But, yes, I'm definitely going to be hanging out there. I'm just going to go on the theme of shouting out something from the network that's not a podcast. Check out Caleb's book.
Yeah.
Caleb J. Ross wrote a book about what remains of Edith Finch called Suddenly I Was a Shark. You can check it out where books are sold. And I have read a little bit of it. I'm not completely done with it, but I have heard rave reviews and people are really digging it. And he has a really interesting and thoughtful way of looking at things that is so unique, and I appreciate Caleb's perspective on stuff. So I say read a book about a video game, somebody's very favorite video game, pretty much, right? Like it's a love letter to his favorite video game. So check that out.
Read that book in the next 2 days, and then come and watch Caleb play What Remains of Edith Finch on
there you
stream.
go.
So perfect segue right back, full circle.
Well, I think that's about it for this episode of Indiequest. Go check out the charity stream.
Yeah.
Go pet your dog if you have a dog.
I am going to.
Cats are okay. Cats are okay too. If you have a cat, go pet them. I mean, cats are nice, but they do poop in your house, so you gotta show them who's boss as well from time to time. Mm-hmm. Stay cool out there. It's summertime. Get yourself. Do you call them Otter Pops or popsicles? You know those little popsicles that are like in a sleeve. You know what I'm talking about? You put it in your freezer.
That we call them like icy pop. What the heck is an Otter Pop?
You never heard it called Otter Pop? I always call them popsicles, but
yeah, but
I've
who
heard them
calls
called
it an Otter Pops? Why is it called that?
I don't know.
I have to look that up. I think we call them like icy pops, or we call them popsicles. They're like the bagged variety of popsicles. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, you just get them and they're like in a mesh bag. You just rip that mesh bag open and you just like destroy the roof of your mouth. But it's summertime. You have to do it. It's like the fall times in pumpkin spice, but for summer.
Yes.
Anyway, leave you on that kind note. Crack open a popsicle, not an Otter Pop, and enjoy the summer. And see you guys next episode for our A Space for the Unbound review.
See everybody.
Like a boat lost at sea, with no sails, not a breeze, I am drifting cold waters, no star to be seen. Is the world too much, or is it just me? Everything I set upon unravels at my feet. Everything I've learned wasted on a girl who doesn't know how to be free. Like a boat lost at sea, with no sails, not a breeze, I am drifting cold waters, no star to be seen. With the fire furious, I have burned my tongue, free from all the promises, too many dreams unsung. All the steps I didn't take and paths proved untrue. Is there any path through? Like a boat lost at sea, though I'm about to sails, not a you still have your life ahead. I am drifting cold waters, no star to be seen. All things that there a way? Can find it again. There is no inertia in the ocean. Maybe if I paddle hard enough, I'll fight the waves, try to be tough. Can I belong to the sea? Like a boat lost at sea, with no sails, not a breeze. I am drifting